The morning sun peeked through the curtains of Anna's modest home on the outskirts of Madrid. Her mother, Elena, gently brushed Anna's dark hair, whispering that today was special. Anna's fingers trembled slightly with excitement. At 15 years old, she had never been to a real concert hall before. "What if I make a fool of myself?" Anna asked, her unseeing eyes directed toward the sound of her mother's voice. "You won't," Elena assured her, squeezing her daughter's shoulder. "Your teacher, Mrs. Reyes, believes in you. That's why she got tickets for all her students to attend the master class." Anna nodded, but the butterflies in her stomach wouldn't settle. She had been playing piano since she was 4, finding in music what her eyes could never give her. The world had always been a place of sounds, smells, and textures for Anna. She was born blind, but her parents never treated her disability as something that should hold her back. Her father, Miguel, a carpenter with rough hands and a gentle heart, had saved for months to buy her an old upright piano when she was little. He'd noticed how Anna would press her ear against the radio whenever classical music played, how her tiny fingers would tap out rhythms on the kitchen table. "Ready?" Miguel called from the doorway. "The bus won't wait for us." The ride to Madrid was filled with the chatter of Anna's classmates from the music school. Mrs. Reyes, a retired piano teacher who ran a small music program for children from families who couldn't afford private lessons, reminded them all to be on their best behavior. "Remember," she said, her voice carrying over the noise of the bus, "Mr. Navarro is one of the most respected pianists in the world. We're lucky he agreed to hold this masterclass for young musicians." Anna clutched her folded white cane in her lap. She had memorized the pieces Mr. Navarro was known for playing. Late at night, she would listen to recordings of his concerts, her fingers dancing over her bed sheets as if they were keys. There was something in his playing that spoke to her, a depth of feeling that went beyond technical skill. The concert hall smelled of polished wood and perfume. Anna's father described the grand space to her as they found their seats. The high ceiling, the rows of red velvet chairs, the massive chandelier that hung like a frozen firework above them. "And the piano?" Anna asked. "Black and shiny as a beetle's back," Miguel told her. "The biggest grand piano I've ever seen." Mrs. Reyes had arranged for some of her students to participate in the master class. Anna hadn't expected to be chosen. She was just happy to be there. But her teacher had surprised her 2 days ago by asking if she'd prepare a piece, just in case. "You have a gift, Anna," Mrs. Reyes had told her. "Maybe Mr. Navarro will see it too." The hall fell quiet as Gabriel Navarro walked onto the stage. Anna couldn't see him, but she could hear the confident stride, the polite applause, and then his voice, deep and smooth like honey. "Music is the language of emotion," he began. "It doesn't matter how technically perfect your playing is if you cannot make your audience feel something." For the next hour, Anna listened intently as Mr. Navarro worked with different students. He was demanding but kind, pushing them to find the feeling behind the notes. Some of the students were from fancy music schools in Madrid, their playing polished from years of expensive lessons. Then Mrs. Reyes leaned over and whispered, "He's asking for one more student volunteer. I've suggested you." Anna's heart nearly stopped. "But trust me," her teacher said, already standing to get Mr. Navarro's attention. The next few moments were a blur. Anna heard Mrs. Reyes speaking with Mr. Navarro, too far away for her to make out the words. Then her teacher was back, helping Anna to her feet. "He's agreed to hear you play," Mrs. Reyes said, excitement bubbling in her voice. "I told him about your gift for playing by ear." Anna gripped her cane tightly as her teacher guided her down the aisle. The whispers started immediately. She could hear them rippling through the crowd like wind through leaves. She was used to this, the curiosity and sometimes pity that followed her everywhere. As they reached the stage steps, Anna heard Mr. Navarro clear his throat. "We're running short on time," he said, his voice carrying in the hall's perfect acoustics. Then lower, thinking his microphone was off. "I'm not sure we should be wasting time on those who can't even see the keys." The words hit Anna like a slap. Her foot faltered on the step and she nearly stumbled. Mrs. Reyes's hand tightened on her arm, steadying her. "He doesn't know what he's talking about," her teacher whispered fiercely. "Show him." The silence in the hall was absolute now. Anna could feel hundreds of eyes on her as Mrs. Reyes guided her to the piano bench. The cool ivory keys under her fingertips were her only comfort in that moment of awful exposure. "What will you play for us?" Mr. Navarro asked, his tone suggesting he was merely humoring this interruption. Debussy's Clair de Lune, Anna replied, her voice smaller than she wanted it to be. She heard a soft scoff. An ambitious choice. Anna's hands were trembling now, but as soon as her fingers touched the keys, something shifted inside her. The piano had always been her true voice, the place where blindness didn't matter. In the universe of sound, she could see everything. She began to play softly, feeling her way into the piece like stepping into a cool stream. The familiar notes surrounded her, and she forgot about the audience, about Mr. Navarro, about the sting of his words. This was between her and the music now. As she reached the flowing middle section, Anna felt herself being carried away by the current of melody. The piano responded to her touch as if it were part of her body. Each note hung in the air like stars appearing one by one in an evening sky. She played with a sensitivity that came from listening, truly listening, to everything around her all her life. Where other musicians saw notation on a page, Anna felt the music as a living thing, breathing and shifting with her own emotions. When she reached the cascading arpeggios, her fingers danced across the keys with a lightness that belied the complexity of the passage. The piece built to its gentle climax, and Anna leaned into the piano, coaxing from it not just the notes but the moonlight itself, silvery, mysterious, and breathtakingly beautiful. As the final notes faded into silence, Anna's hands came to rest in her lap. For a moment she wondered if everyone had left. The silence was so complete. Then she heard it, the sound of someone crying. Not loud sobs, but the unmistakable catch of breath that comes with deep emotion. The applause that followed started with a single pair of hands. Anna would later learn they belonged to an old pianist in the back row, and then spread like wildfire through the hall. It wasn't polite applause. It was the kind that erupts when people have witnessed something unexpected and genuine. Mr. Navarro said nothing as Mrs. Reyes helped Anna stand. His silence spoke volumes. Anna felt a strange mix of pride and sadness, pride in her playing, sadness that someone so talented could be so quick to judge. As they turned to leave the stage, Mr. Navarro finally spoke. "Wait," he said, his voice different now, stripped of its earlier confidence. "How long have you been playing?" "Since I was 4, Anna answered. "And who taught you to play like that?" Anna thought about her parents who worked extra jobs to keep her in piano lessons, about Mrs. Reyes who believed in her when no one else would take a blind student, about the old recordings she would listen to over and over in the dark. "Everyone," she said simply, "and no one. I just listen." There was a rustle of movement and Anna felt a presence next to her. Mr. Navarro had stepped closer. "Would you play something else?" he asked, and this time there was no condescension in his voice, only wonder. Mrs. Reyes squeezed Anna's hand. "It's up to you," she whispered. Anna nodded and turned back to the piano. As she sat down again, she felt different, stronger somehow. The nervousness that had plagued her earlier was gone. In its place was a quiet certainty. Her fingers found the keys again, and this time, she chose to play the very piece Mr. Navarro had performed at the beginning of the master class, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. But Anna didn't just repeat what she had heard. She played it her way, with subtle changes that made the familiar piece new again. And somewhere in those moments at the piano, a door opened, not just for Anna, but for everyone listening. A door to understanding that music, like life itself, isn't about what you can or cannot see. It's about what you feel, and how deeply you allow yourself to listen. The silence in the concert hall felt electric. Anna's fingers rested lightly on the piano keys, the warmth of the spotlight on her face. She couldn't see the hundreds of eyes watching her, but she could feel their attention like a physical weight. Gabriel Navarro stood to the side of the grand piano, his arms crossed. The famous pianist's earlier dismissive words still hung in the air, but something had shifted. The polite smile he wore for the audience had vanished, replaced by an expression of genuine curiosity. "Play something else," he said, his voice quieter now. "Something you love." Anna took a deep breath. Her teacher, Mrs. Reyes, had always told her to play from the heart when technique alone wasn't enough. In the audience, her parents held hands tightly, their pride mixed with worry for their daughter on that enormous stage. "I'll play Liszt's Liebestraum," Anna said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. A murmur rippled through the audience. It was an ambitious choice, a piece that required both technical precision and emotional depth. Mr. Navarro's eyebrows rose slightly, but he stepped back without comment. What no one in the auditorium knew was that Anna had been playing this piece for years. On dark nights when sleep wouldn't come, when the world felt too big and unknown for a girl who couldn't see it, she would sneak to the old upright piano at home. With only moonlight filtering through the curtains, light she couldn't see but somehow felt on her skin, she would play until her fears receded. Her fingers began to move across the keys, finding their places without hesitation. The opening notes hung in the air like whispered secrets. Anna didn't play the piece as it was written in the sheet music she could never read. She played it as it lived inside her. In the third row, an older woman with silver hair leaned forward, opera glasses in hand. She was Lucia Vega, once a concert pianist herself before arthritis claimed her career. She had come today only because a former student had insisted, having grown tired of concert halls filled with technical perfection but little soul. Now her eyes narrowed as she watched Anna play. "Look at her hands," Lucia whispered to her companion. "She's not playing Liszt's Liebestraum. She's playing with Liszt's Liebestraum." On stage, Anna had entered that secret place she went when music took over. Her fingers knew the path without her having to think about it. The piece flowed through her, the piano responding to the lightest touch as if eager to help tell her story. Her teacher had discovered Anna's gift when she was just 7 years old. Mrs. Reyes had been giving group lessons at the community center, teaching simple tunes to beginners. Anna had sat quietly in the corner while waiting for her older brother's lesson to end. After the students left, Mrs. Reyes was startled to hear the piece she'd been teaching, played perfectly, but with a wistful quality she hadn't demonstrated. It was Anna, her small fingers finding the keys as if she'd been born knowing their placement. When Mrs. Reyes asked how she'd learned to play it, Anna had simply said, "I listened." That same gift was on full display now. As the piece progressed, Anna's face reflected every emotion in the music, the longing, the tenderness, the quiet passion. She swayed slightly on the bench, completely unaware of how the audience had fallen under her spell. Mr. Navarro watched with growing amazement. He had taught child prodigies before, had performed with the greatest musicians in the world. But there was something about this girl's playing that felt entirely new. It wasn't just that she played without seeing. Plenty of visually impaired musicians had mastered that skill. It was that she played as if the music were being born in that moment, as if each note were a discovery. When Anna reached the piece's climax, her hands moved with such confidence that several music teachers in the audience exchanged glances of disbelief. The difficult runs that had students practicing for months flowed from her fingers effortlessly. But it wasn't the technical achievement that brought tears to eyes throughout the hall. It was the pure emotion she conveyed. In the back of the auditorium, a young journalist named Luis, who had come to cover the masterclass for a small local paper, frantically scribbled notes. He had expected to write a standard piece about Mr. Navarro's teaching methods. Instead, he found himself trying to capture in words the transformation happening before his eyes. "The blind girl doesn't just play the piano," he wrote. "She speaks through it." As the final delicate notes of the piece faded away, Anna's hands came to rest in her lap. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. The spell she had cast remained unbroken. Then Mr. Navarro did something no one expected. He walked to the piano and sat beside Anna on the bench. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the keys, though Anna couldn't see the movement. Anna nodded, shuffling slightly to make room. Mr. Navarro began to play the opening of Bach's Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, watching Anna's face as the notes filled the air. After a few measures, he nodded to her an invitation. Without hesitation, Anna joined in, her right hand finding the melody while he played the accompaniment. They hadn't rehearsed, had never played together, yet within moments they were conversing through the music as if they'd done so for years. Mr. Navarro subtly changed the tempo, and Anna followed instantly. He added a minor variation to a phrase, and she responded with a complimentary one of her own. The audience watched in wonder as the master pianist and the blind girl created something magical between them. When they finished, Mr. Navarro turned to face the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying easily through the hall, "I have been playing piano for 40 years. I have performed in the finest concert halls around the world, and I have just been taught the most important lesson of my career." He turned back to Anna, who sat with her hands folded in her lap, her unseeing eyes directed toward the sound of his voice. "You hear music differently than I do," he said to her, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You hear what many of us have forgotten to listen for." In the audience, Anna's mother, Elena, wiped tears from her eyes. Beside her, Miguel squeezed her hand, his carpenter's fingers rough against her skin. Their daughter, who had faced so many challenges in a world designed for seeing people, had found her own way to shine. Mrs. Reyes sat nearby, her back straight with pride. She had fought to include Anna in the masterclass despite resistance from the organizers. "What's the point?" they had asked. "She can't see the demonstrations." But Mrs. Reyes had insisted that music was about far more than watching technique. On stage, Mr. Navarro was speaking again. "I must apologize," he said, addressing Anna directly. "I made an assumption about your abilities based on what I perceived as a limitation. I was wrong." Anna's face flushed slightly. "It's okay," she said. "People often don't know what to expect." "Tell me," Mr. Navarro said, genuinely curious now. "How did you learn to play like that?" Anna thought for a moment. How could she explain that music had never been about reading notes on a page for her? That she experienced sound in a way that filled the darkness with color and meaning? "When you can't see," she finally said, "you listen differently. Nothing distracts you from the sound. I can hear the spaces between notes, the weight of a chord, the intention behind each phrase." Mr. Navarro nodded slowly. "You have a rare gift. Not just talent, many have talent, but a unique perspective. You hear music as it should be heard." In the audience, Lucia Vega leaned toward her companion again. "That girl," she whispered, "has what cannot be taught." Mr. Navarro stood from the bench making a decision. "I would like to offer you private lessons," he said to Anna, "if you're willing." A collective gasp went through the audience. Mr. Navarro rarely took new students, and when he did, they were usually already accomplished pianists from prestigious music schools. Anna's face lit up with surprise, but then hesitation crossed her features. "My parents. We couldn't afford—" "Not as a regular student," Mr. Navarro interrupted gently. "As my guest at the conservatory. No fee." In the third row, Anna's parents exchanged shocked glances. The Madrid Conservatory was one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. Students from around the world competed for spots in its program. Mrs. Reyes stood up from her seat. "She would need special accommodations," she called out. Mr. Navarro nodded. "Of course. We will make it work." He turned back to Anna. "Music finds a way. Always." Anna's fingers trembled slightly as they rested on her lap. All her life she had played in the safety of her home or in Mrs. Reyes's small studio. The idea of studying at the conservatory, of pursuing music seriously, had seemed an impossible dream. "I would be honored," she said simply. As Mrs. Reyes came to help Anna from the stage, the audience broke into applause once more. But this time, it wasn't just appreciation for her playing. It was recognition of a moment when limitations fell away and possibilities opened up. In the back of the hall, Luis the journalist had stopped writing. Some stories couldn't be captured in words alone. This was one that people would need to tell each other. "You should have been there. You should have heard her play." The news spread quickly through Madrid's music circles. A blind girl from a small town had impressed Gabriel Navarro so much that he had offered to teach her personally at the conservatory. Some dismissed it as a publicity stunt. Others, who had been in the auditorium that day, knew better. 3 weeks after the master class, Anna stood nervously outside the imposing doors of the Madrid Conservatory of Music. The building was over 200 years old, its stone hallways having echoed with the footsteps of some of Spain's greatest musicians. Anna couldn't see the ornate ceilings or the portraits of famous composers lining the walls, but she could feel the weight of history in the air. "Ready?" her father Miguel asked, his hand gentle on her shoulder. Anna clutched her cane tighter. What if he's changed his mind? Her mother Elena straightened Anna's collar. "Then we go home with our heads held high." But he won't have changed his mind. The first lesson was set for 10 o'clock. They had woken at dawn to make the 2-hour journey from their town. Anna had barely slept the night before, her mind racing with equal parts excitement and fear. A woman with a crisp, efficient voice met them at the entrance. "I'm Isabel, Mr. Navarro's assistant," she said. "He's waiting for you in Studio 3. As they followed Isabel through the corridors, Anna listened to the sounds drifting from practice rooms. Scales, sonatas, frustrated sighs when mistakes were made. This was a world of dedication and discipline, so different from the casual lessons at Mrs. Reyes's community studio. Studio 3 was at the end of a long hallway. Isabel knocked once, then opened the door. "Anna is here, sir." The room smelled of polished wood and coffee. Anna heard the creak of a chair as someone stood. "Welcome," Mr. Navarro said. His voice was warmer than Anna remembered from the master class. "Thank you for coming." After brief introductions, Mr. Navarro suggested that Anna's parents wait in the conservatory cafe. "Our lessons will be 2 hours," he explained. "We have much to explore." Once they were alone, Anna heard Mr. Navarro moving around the room. "There are 2 pianos," he said. "A Steinway Grand and an older Bösendorfer. Which would you like to try first?" Anna's hands twisted in her lap. "I've never had a choice before." Mr. Navarro laughed softly. "Then today is full of firsts. Let's start with the Steinway." He guided her to the piano, his footsteps measured so she could follow easily. When Anna sat on the bench, her fingers found the keys. Cool, smooth, and perfectly balanced. This was not like her family's old upright or even the piano at the master class. This instrument was a masterpiece of engineering. "Play something you know well," Mr. Navarro instructed. "Something that feels like home to you." Anna thought for a moment, then began to play a Spanish folk song her grandmother had sung to her as a child. It was a simple melody, bittersweet and lovely. As she played, she added harmonies that weren't part of the original tune but seemed to belong there anyway. When she finished, Mr. Navarro was quiet for so long that Anna wondered if he had left the room. "You've had no formal training in composition," he finally said. It wasn't a question. "No, sir. Yet you just turned a folk song into something that could be performed in a concert hall." He walked around the piano, his shoes clicking on the wooden floor. "Anna, I need to understand how you do this." "Do what?" "Hear the music so completely. Most students spend years learning theory before they can improvise with that kind of harmonic understanding, but you do it instinctively." Anna shrugged, uncomfortable with his fascination. "I just play what sounds right." "What sounds right," he repeated thoughtfully. "Let's try something." For the next hour, Mr. Navarro tested Anna's abilities. He played complex chord progressions and asked her to identify them. He had her repeat melodies after hearing them just once. He played the beginning of a phrase and asked her to complete it. To his growing amazement, Anna met every challenge. She couldn't name the theoretical concepts. She didn't know a Neapolitan sixth from a French augmented sixth, but her ear was nearly perfect. "Extraordinary," Mr. Navarro murmured. "You have what we call absolute pitch. You can identify any note without a reference tone. But it's more than that. You have an innate understanding of musical structure that most spend a lifetime trying to develop." Anna's face flushed at the praise. "Mrs. Reyes said I was good at listening." Mr. Navarro laughed, a genuine sound that filled the studio. "That's like saying Picasso was good at noticing colors." He paused. "Anna, I want to try one more thing today. I'm going to play something I'm working on. A new piece I'm composing. No one has heard it yet. I want to know what you think." He moved to the Bösendorfer and began to play. The music was modern, complex, with shifting time signatures and bold harmonies. It was nothing like the classical pieces Anna had grown up listening to. When he finished, he asked, "What did you hear?" Anna hesitated. "Should I be honest?" "Always." "It's beautiful," she said carefully. "But it sounds like you're thinking too much. Like you're trying to impress other musicians instead of just telling the story." The silence that followed was heavy. Anna bit her lip, wishing she could take back her words. Who was she? A girl from nowhere with no training to criticize Gabriel Navarro. Then she heard a sound she didn't expect. Mr. Navarro was laughing again, but softer this time, almost to himself. "Out of the mouths of babes," he said. "You're absolutely right. I've been overthinking it, trying to be clever." The piano bench creaked as he turned toward her. "This is why I wanted to teach you, Anna. Not just to share what I know, but to remind myself what music is really about." The rest of the lesson flew by. They played duets, experimented with different interpretations of the same piece, and discussed the emotional language of music. When Anna's parents returned, they found their daughter and the famous pianist deep in conversation about Bach's use of mathematics in music. "She has remarkable potential," Mr. Navarro told them. With your permission, I'd like to continue these lessons twice a week. On the train ride home, Anna was unusually quiet, processing everything that had happened. Her father finally asked, "Was it what you hoped for?" Anna thought about it. It was better. He didn't treat me like I was broken or special. He treated me like a musician. The lessons continued through the summer and into fall. Word began to spread beyond the conservatory about Gabriel Navarro's unusual student. A reporter from a national newspaper came to do a story. Then a crew from a cultural television program asked to film a lesson. Anna found the attention uncomfortable. They act like it's a miracle that a blind person can play piano, she complained to Mr. Navarro after a particularly intrusive interview. People are fascinated by what they don't understand, he replied. But there's an opportunity here, Anna. You can change how people think about disability. You can show them that different doesn't mean less. One rainy Tuesday in November, Mr. Navarro met Anna with barely contained excitement. The conservatory is hosting a gala concert next month, he said. All the faculty will perform. I'd like you to play too. Anna's heart raced. Me, but I'm not a student here. Not officially. Consider it an audition, Mr. Navarro said. The director of the conservatory will be there, along with the scholarship committee. You think they might offer me a place? Anna could hardly believe it. I know they will once they hear you play. As word of Anna's upcoming performance spread, the attention intensified. A music blogger heard her practicing during a lesson and wrote about the blind girl who plays like her fingers can see into the soul of music. The post went viral, shared by musicians around the world. 2 weeks before the gala, Mr. Navarro proposed something unexpected. I've been working on a new composition, he said. A duet for 2 pianos. Would you consider performing it with me at the gala? A new piece? But there's so little time to prepare, Anna protested. That's the thing, Mr. Navarro said, his voice excited in a way Anna had never heard before. Part of it isn't written yet. I want us to improvise a section together on stage. Improvise? In front of everyone? The thought made Anna's stomach twist with fear. You improvise more beautifully than most people can play rehearsed music, he said. Trust me. Trust yourself. The night of the gala arrived cold and clear. The conservatory's main hall was filled to capacity. Faculty, students, music critics, and patrons of the arts. Anna's parents sat in the front row, her mother wearing her best dress, her father's work-worn hands clean and his hair neatly combed. Backstage, Anna sat quietly while the other performers rushed around making last-minute preparations. Mr. Navarro found her there, a calm island in the chaos. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, Anna admitted. What if I mess up the improvisation? Mr. Navarro sat beside her. Remember what you told me about my composition? That I was thinking too much? He took her hand and placed it over her heart. Tonight, play from here. That's where the best music lives anyway. When they were announced, Mr. Navarro guided Anna onto the stage. The applause was polite but curious. 2 grand pianos stood waiting, their lids raised like black wings. As she took her seat, Anna's hands trembled slightly. But when her fingers touched the keys, something shifted inside her. This was where she belonged. They began to play. The music flowed between the 2 pianos like a conversation between old friends. Anna and Mr. Navarro played the composed sections with perfect synchronicity, their fingers dancing across the keys in harmony. When they reached the improvisation, Anna hesitated for just a heartbeat, then plunged in, offering a musical idea that was both question and challenge. Mr. Navarro responded, building on her theme. Back and forth they went, each elaboration more complex than the last, yet the music remained accessible, emotionally direct. It wasn't a competition, but a collaboration. 2 musicians creating something greater than either could alone. In the audience, the conservatory's director, Dr. Rosario, leaned forward in her seat. In 30 years of teaching, she had never heard anything quite like this. The blind girl played not just with technical skill, but with an emotional honesty that cut through academic pretension. When the final notes faded, the hall remained silent for 3 long seconds. Then the applause began, hesitant at first, then building to thunderous approval. Anna sat still at the piano, her face flushed with the thrill of what they had created together. Mr. Navarro came to help her stand for a bow. As they faced the audience, he whispered, "You were magnificent." Backstage, they were immediately surrounded by well-wishers. Anna's parents pushed through the crowd, her mother enveloping her in a tight hug. "My sunshine," Elena whispered, using the pet name from Anna's childhood. "You shone so bright." Her father simply held her hand, too overcome for words. His calloused thumb rubbed back and forth across her knuckles. The same gesture he had used to comfort her through childhood nightmares, school troubles, and moments of frustration at a world designed for sighted people. "Doctor," Rosario approached, her voice warm with genuine admiration. "Ms. Santos, that was extraordinary. Mr. Navarro told me you were talented, but I had no idea." She paused. "Would you and your parents join me in my office tomorrow morning? There's something I'd like to discuss." Anna barely slept that night. She and her parents stayed in a small hotel near the conservatory, her mind too full of possibilities to rest. What did Dr. Rosario want to discuss? Could it be the scholarship Mr. Navarro had mentioned the next morning? They arrived at the director's office precisely at 10. Dr. Rosario's assistant led them into a spacious room lined with books and framed musical scores. Through an open window came the sounds of students practicing scales in the courtyard below. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Rosario said, inviting them to sit. "I'll get straight to the point. The conservatory would like to offer Anna a full scholarship. Beginning next semester," Anna's mother gasped softly. Her father's hand tightened on hers. "This would cover tuition, materials, and private lessons with Mr. Navarro." Dr. Rosario continued. "We believe Anna has extraordinary potential." Joy bubbled up in Anna's chest, but before she could speak, her father cleared his throat. "We are very honored," Miguel said carefully, "but there are practical matters to consider. Our home is 2 hours away. Anna would need to travel alone." "Actually," Dr. Rosario interrupted gently, "the scholarship includes accommodation in our student residence. Anna would live here during term time." The joy in Anna's chest collided with a sudden wave of fear. Live at the conservatory? Away from home, from her parents, from everything familiar? How would she navigate a new place she couldn't see? I don't know if I can," she whispered. "It's a lot to consider," Dr. Rosario acknowledged. "Why don't you discuss it as a family? We don't need an answer today on the train ride home." Anna sat in silence, her thoughts churning. Her parents spoke quietly to each other, occasionally throwing worried glances her way. "Talk to us, sunshine," her mother finally said. "What are you thinking?" Anna twisted her hands in her lap. "I want to go," she admitted. "The music, the teaching, it's everything I've dreamed of. But I'm scared of what?" Her father asked. "Of being alone. Of failing, of—" She hesitated. "Of people seeing me as a curiosity, not a musician. The blind girl who plays piano, like I'm a circus act." Her father made a sound of understanding. "You want to be known for your music, not your blindness." Yes, they fell silent again as the train clattered over the tracks. Finally, her mother spoke. "Anna, do you remember when you were 7 and you wanted to join the town's children's choir?" Anna nodded. She remembered it well. The choir director said no at first. He didn't think a blind child could follow a conductor. But you insisted on trying, and eventually he gave in. Elena's voice grew stronger. "By Christmas, you were singing solos. By Easter, you were helping other children learn their parts. You didn't just participate, you excelled." "This is bigger than a children's choir," Anna protested. "The scale is different," her father agreed. "But you are the same Anna who has never let blindness stop her from doing what she loves." When they arrived home, they found Mrs. Reyes waiting on their doorstep, eager for news. Over cups of hot chocolate, they told her about the scholarship offer and their concerns. "I understand your worries," Mrs. Reyes said when they had finished. "But Anna has a gift that deserves to be nurtured by the best teachers, and the conservatory will learn from her as much as she learns from them." "What do you mean?" Anna asked. "They'll learn that music isn't just notes on a page, that there are many ways to be a musician, that limitations can become strengths." Mrs. Reyes reached out to squeeze Anna's hand. "You won't just be a student there, Anna. You'll be a teacher in your own way." That night, Anna sat at the family's old upright piano, her fingers moving over the familiar keys. This piano had been her first friend, her confidant, her voice when words failed. Could she find that same comfort with the grand pianos at the conservatory? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Her brother, Pedro, home from university for the weekend, came to sit beside her on the bench. "Playing the classics tonight?" he asked, bumping his shoulder against hers. Anna smiled. Just thinking Pedro, 5 years older and studying engineering, had always been her fierce protector and biggest fan. About the scholarship? Mom and Dad told me. I don't know what to do. Pedro was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? When I first went to university, I was terrified. New city, new people, so much pressure to succeed. He played a few random notes with one finger. First night in my dorm room, I cried like a baby. Anna laughed in surprise. You did not hand to heaven, he said solemnly. But by the end of the first week, I'd made friends. By the end of the first month, it felt like home. It's different for me, Anna said. You can see where you're going. You can read signs and recognize faces, true, Pedro admitted. But you have other skills. You remember voices after hearing them once. You can navigate by sound and memory better than anyone I know. And you have something most students don't. What's that courage, he said simply. It takes courage to move through a world you can't see. You've been doing it your whole life. The next morning, Anna asked her parents to call Dr. Rosario. She had made her decision. She would accept the scholarship. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. The conservatory worked with a specialist to create maps of the campus that Anna could feel with her fingertips. Mr. Navarro arranged for her to visit several times before the term began. Helping her memorize routes between important locations, Anna's mother sewed name tags into all her clothes and labeled her personal items with raised dots she could identify by touch. Her father built her a special case to transport her music books and recording equipment. The day before Anna was to move into the student residence, Mr. Navarro came to their home. He had never visited before, and Anna felt strange hearing his formal voice in her family's modest living room. I wanted to speak with all of you, he said. Especially you, Anna. Anna sat at the piano bench, her usual spot during family discussions. First, Mr. Navarro continued. Want to properly apologize for my behavior when we first met. My comment at the masterclass was ignorant and unkind. Anna started to say it was forgotten, but he held up a hand. Please let me finish. That moment has been on my conscience. I've spent my life believing I understood music, but meeting you showed me how limited my perspective has been. He took a deep breath. I've been teaching for 20 years, but in the past few months you've taught me more than any student ever has. You've reminded me why I became a musician in the first place, not to impress critics or win competitions, but to speak the truth through sound. Anna's mother sniffled quietly, and her father cleared his throat. Even Pedro, usually quick with a joke, was silent. I've brought something for you, Mr. Navarro said, placing a package in Anna's hands. It's music I've written for you to play at the conservatory's winter concert. Not with me this time, solo. It's called Light Without Seeing. Anna ran her fingers over the braille music sheets, deeply touched by the gesture. Thank you, she whispered. I should warn you, Mr. Navarro said, a smile in his voice. The scholarship committee may have had ulterior motives in offering you a place. Several faculty members have approached me about studying your method of learning music by ear. You may find yourself teaching the teachers that night. After Mr. Navarro had gone and her family had retired to bed, Anna sat alone at the piano. Tomorrow would bring a new chapter in her life. New challenges, new opportunities, new ways to grow. She played a few notes of the song Mr. Navarro had written for her. The melody was beautiful, but something about it felt unfinished, like a conversation waiting for her response. Anna smiled in the darkness. Perhaps that was the point. The rest of the music would be hers to discover, to interpret, to make her own. Just like her journey ahead, 3 years passed like the pages of sheet music, each day a new note in Anna's evolving melody. The conservatory became a second home, its hallways and practice rooms as familiar to her touch and hearing as the furniture in her family's house had once been. There had been hard days, especially at first. Anna still remembered her first week in the student residence, the disorienting echo of unfamiliar spaces, the pitying whispers of students who thought she couldn't hear them, the frustrating moments of getting lost on her way to class. She had called home every night, homesickness sitting heavy in her chest, but there had been good days too, which gradually outnumbered the difficult ones. The dormitory supervisor who took extra time to help her organize her room in a way that made sense to her touch. The librarian who scanned music sheets so they could be converted to braille. The fellow piano student who asked if Anna would teach her to play by ear, confessing shyly that she'd always relied too heavily on written music. And through it all, there was Mr. Navarro. Not just a teacher anymore, but a mentor, A champion and eventually a friend, on a crisp autumn morning in her third year, Anna sat in Mr. Navarro's office. "Have you thought about what you'll do after graduation?" Mr. Navarro asked, setting his own cup down with a gentle clink. Anna nodded. Just 6 months remained in her program. "I'd like to teach," she said. "Maybe open a small studio like Mrs. Reyes. Help children who might not otherwise have access to music education." "Noble," Mr. Navarro said. "But is that all?" Anna tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "You're playing, Anna. It deserves to be heard by more than a handful of students." He hesitated. "I've received an invitation to perform at Carnegie Hall next spring. They've asked me to bring a guest artist." Anna nearly spilled her tea. "Carnegie Hall? In New York?" "The very same." She could hear the smile in his voice. "I'd like that guest artist to be you." The cup trembled in Anna's hands. "But that's one of the most famous concert halls in the world. People wait their whole careers for a chance to play there, and now it's your chance." Papers rustled as Mr. Navarro leaned forward. "You've grown so much, Anna. Not just technically, but as an artist. You have something to say through your music. Something the world needs to hear." That evening, Anna called her parents to share the news. Their voices burst with pride over the phone line, her mother alternating between happy tears and practical questions about passports and travel arrangements. "Will you do it?" her father asked when the excitement had settled a bit. "I think so," Anna said, "but it's terrifying." "The best things usually are," Miguel replied, his voice gentle with understanding. "Remember when you first moved to the conservatory? You were scared then too." Anna smiled, remembering her brother Pedro's confession about crying his first night at university. "I suppose I've faced bigger challenges, and conquered them all," her father said. The months leading up to the Carnegie Hall performance passed in a blur of preparation. Anna and Mr. Navarro selected a program that showcased both classical masterpieces and contemporary works, including a piece she had composed herself during her studies. News of the upcoming concert spread beyond the conservatory walls. A documentary filmmaker contacted Anna, interested in following her journey from Madrid to New York. At first, Anna refused. She didn't want to be portrayed as an inspiration story, the blind girl overcoming obstacles. But the filmmaker, a thoughtful woman named Lucia, convinced her that the documentary would focus on her music, not just her blindness. "Your story matters," Lucia told her over coffee. "Not because you're blind, but because you've found your own way to understand music. That perspective is valuable." As winter thawed into spring, Anna found herself swept up in a whirlwind of activity. There were visa applications and publicity photos, rehearsals and interviews. A famous fashion designer offered to create a concert gown for her debut. Music magazines wanted profiles. The conservatory organized a send-off concert, where Anna played to a packed house of supporters. Through it all, Anna held tight to her morning ritual, an hour of practice alone, before the day's demands began. In those quiet moments with just herself and the piano, she remembered why she played it all, not for applause or recognition, but for the pure joy of making sound come alive. The night before she was to leave for New York, Anna returned to her hometown for a family dinner. Mrs. Reyes was there, now retired but still teaching a few special students. Anna's brother Pedro had taken time off from his engineering job to be present. Even the choir director, who had reluctantly accepted a blind 7-year-old into his children's group, came to wish her well. After dinner, Anna's father took her aside. "I have something for you," he said, pressing a small object into her palm. Anna's fingers explored it, a wooden carving small enough to fit in her pocket, shaped like a piano key. "I made it from the same wood as your first piano," Miguel explained, his voice rough with emotion. "So you'll have a piece of home with you on stage." The journey to New York was Anna's first time on an airplane. She clutched Mr. Navarro's arm during takeoff, her face a mix of terror and exhilaration as the pressure changed in her ears, and her stomach dropped. Once they were in the air, though, she relaxed, fascinated by the experience of moving so far above the earth she couldn't see. New York was a symphony of sound unlike anything Anna had known. Car horns and street vendors, dozens of languages spoken on every corner, the rumble of the subway beneath the sidewalks. Mr. Navarro described the skyscrapers and the constant motion of the city as they traveled by taxi to their hotel. It's like the whole world is here, Anna marveled, her face turned toward the window, feeling the spring sunshine on her skin. The day of the concert arrived clear and cool. That morning, Anna walked with Mr. Navarro through Carnegie Hall for a final rehearsal. Her fingers trailed along the walls as they went, absorbing the history of the famous venue. Isaac Stern played here, Mr. Navarro told her. Vladimir Horowitz, Arthur Rubinstein, Glenn Gould, legends. Anna swallowed hard. And now us. And now you, he corrected gently. The rehearsal went smoothly, Anna taking time to familiarize herself with the acoustics of the space and the feel of the Steinway Concert Grand, waiting for her on stage. The sound technicians adjusted microphones while Lucia filmed quietly from the side, capturing Anna's focused preparation. That evening, as Anna sat backstage in her concert gown, midnight blue silk that the designer had described as the color of music itself, she held her father's wooden piano key in her palm. The buzz of the audience filtered through the walls as the hall filled to capacity. Mr. Navarro knocked softly on her dressing room door. 5 minutes, he said. How are you feeling? Like my heart might beat right out of my chest, Anna admitted. He laughed. After all these years, I still feel the same before a performance. His tone grew serious. Anna, no matter what happens tonight, remember this. You've already succeeded. The little girl from a small town who played an old upright piano. She's here now. About to play Carnegie Hall, everything else is just details. When Anna walked onto the stage, the applause washed over her like a wave. Mr. Navarro had described the hall to her, the tiers of seats rising up and back, the ornate ceiling, the perfect acoustics, but nothing prepared her for the feeling of all those people waiting to hear her play. She found the piano by memory of the rehearsal, settling on the bench and adjusting its height. Her fingers found the keys, cool and waiting. In her pocket, the wooden piano key her father had carved pressed against her leg, a reminder of where she had begun. Anna took a deep breath and began to play. Her first piece was Bach, structured and precise, showcasing her technical skill. Next came Chopin, romantic and emotional. Then her own composition, which she had titled simply Listening, a piece that captured her unique relationship with sound. As she played, something remarkable happened. The nervousness fell away. The audience disappeared. Even the grand hall around her seemed to vanish. There was only Anna and the music, speaking to each other in their private language. When the final note of her last piece faded away, the silence lasted just long enough for Anna to wonder if she had failed somehow. Then came the applause, not polite or measured, but thunderous and immediate. People were on their feet. Someone shouted, "Bravo!" Others joined in. Mr. Navarro came to help her stand for her bows, whispering in her ear, "They love you." The standing ovation continued for 5 minutes. Anna stood there, overwhelmed by the response, tears streaming down her face as she bowed again and again. Later that night, as she and Mr. Navarro celebrated with a quiet dinner, her performance was already making waves. Critics were writing reviews calling her a revelation and a unique voice in classical music. Social media was buzzing with video clips. The documentary filmmaker was receiving calls from distributors interested in her project. What happens now? Anna asked, still dazed by it all. Mr. Navarro smiled. Now, my dear, you changed the world, and she did. In the years that followed, Anna's career flourished beyond anything she had imagined. She performed in concert halls across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Her recordings won awards. Universities invited her to give masterclasses on her approach to music. But the achievement Anna was most proud of came 3 years after her Carnegie Hall debut. With the help of Mr. Navarro and a team of dedicated supporters, she established the Listen Foundation, which provided musical education to visually impaired children around the world. The foundation's first project was to renovate the community center where Mrs. Reyes had once taught her to play. Now it housed a state-of-the-art music school with programs for children with all types of abilities and disabilities. On the day of the school's opening, Anna stood in the main practice room surrounded by pianos, violins, guitars, and drums, all available to children who might otherwise never have access to music education. What do you think? Asked Mr. Navarro, who had flown in for the occasion. Anna turned to him, her face glowing with quiet joy. I think we've come full circle, she said. From that first day when you didn't believe a blind girl could really play, to this. He took her hand, squeezing it gently. "You've taught me more than I could ever teach you," he said. Anna smiled. "And that's the real music," she replied. "Sometimes the most beautiful melodies come from those who see the world differently." Outside, the first students were arriving, their excited voices carrying through the open windows. The next movement of Anna's story was just beginning.